Today we're going to get into some more last night we laid some groundwork. Today we'll get into more of the details of what the care ministry looks like and how that is implemented within the local church. So thank you so much, Pastor Ryan, for praying. Just bless our time. You can turn to page 17 in the participant guide. And we're going to try to get through all of these today. Again, if you have a question, feel free to just stop me. There's we can answer, facilitate any questions. By the way, I just want to take a moment to introduce J.P. Brett. So he came here this morning. He's a board member at First Assembly and a great friend. He's when we go to Africa, he's my French speaking interpreter. So. And man can preach, I'm just telling you. So if you ever need a French interpreter, he's your guy. But he's going to be going to Kenya and Uganda next month in a few weeks for a pastor's conference with a ministry called Dove and Lion Ministries out of our church, and just equipping and training pastors to do the work of the ministry. We have a lot of great resources here in the United States. I mean, if you go to my house and you look on my bookshelf, I've got probably 20 different Bibles, 10 different versions, including a Geneva version of the Bible. I've got resources on my phone. I've got Logos Bible software. But there are pastors in Africa who, they just don't have those kind of research materials. They literally just have Jesus, and they have the power of the Holy Ghost to go and minister and trying to be a witness to Christ in their community. So we try to just do everything that we can to give them the tools and equipment they need for that. So you can be in prayer for JP as he goes and does that. So today we're going to talk about the care system and go through that. And again, on page 17, so the Care Ministry Network operates within a framework of a well-designed system that facilitates a successful outcome of ministry. So the human body has 11 major systems that make it function. These systems relate to one another in such a way that the body is unable to survive without any one of them. Similarly, to function properly, the body of Christ also needs systems. Although we understand the church itself is not a system. So, the care ministry is just, it's a system of care within the local church, right? But the church has systems, whether, I try not to just be all about systems, but if you don't have any systems, then the church is probably not going to operate very well, right? I mean, we have a PA system, and if this PA system quits operating properly, well, I can project my voice, but it's still a system that we use. We have a worship team that has a worship system. We have multiple systems within the church that operate together, and care ministry is one of those systems. So local churches, for the most part, use systems for effective evangelism, assimilation, stewardship, people development, leadership, and so on. Unfortunately, few churches have a satisfactory method to care adequately for people. The Care Ministry Network answers this desperate need to deliver authentic care for all the members of a congregation. I just want to thank Pastor Ryan, for recognizing the need for personal care, to care for people within the local church. It's just the culture that we live in. I mean, how many of y'all have ever heard the term, come to church, you're going to find your purpose, right? I've heard that. I mean, I've heard that. I find purpose in my ministry. I find this place of acceptance, this place of belonging. But at the same time, I need to find this place where I feel cared for, where I feel loved, where I feel the compassion of Christ. I mean, that's the purpose of the body. And I'm fully convinced if you have a church that is well taken care of, then you have a community that's going to be well taken care of. Because if the church is healthy and grows and thrives, the community around it begins to become healthy. If you really want to change the world, love somebody, love your neighbor. I mean, it's just that simple. So the Care Ministry Network is not only a slogan or a mere concept. It is neither. It is another add-on. It's neither an add-on program. Instead, it conveys the idea of cultivating a culture of care based on scriptural principles within the congregation. I made an observation last night when we were getting ready to leave, And, it's getting close to 9 o'clock on a Friday night, and I'm like, everybody's still hanging out, talking and visiting. It's like, are these people going to leave? No. Because, it's kind of like the love quotient in a room, Like you can tell, people just want to be around each other. You have a loving and caring culture already in this church. So the care ministry is only going to help you to get that culture out to every person, right? People are going to notice the change in the culture of the church before they even know that the system exists for care. We saw that in our church many times. People just come into the room, they're like, man, we feel the presence of God in this room. Yeah, we do. I mean, we have worship, anointing, and all that stuff, but we also have people who are kind and nice, and they have the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. All of these, the fruit of the Spirit's in the room, So, people notice that kind of stuff. So the power of the Care Ministry Network. The Care Ministry Network, it deals with church's culture. It defines who the congregation is and reveals its heart. It addresses the basic needs all humans have. It touches on the priesthood of all believers, exposes the neglect, and underscores the necessity to equip the saints for their work of the ministry. Again, it introduces and initiates the great commitment and accentuates its importance. It conveys the message of caring for the flock, which is the household of faith, systematically. Another benefit of the care ministry is that it alleviates some of the stress from the pastor's life, whom people expect to visit the sick, pray with every member, attend every function, counsel all the people, and still visit each household. And then it doesn't even mention have a healthy marriage, have healthy children, have a healthy lifestyle. All of these expectations that we put on a pastor, they're just simply unrealistic for one person to do alone. So I believe that even having this care ministry in place, I know it's happened in our church, is that, man, Pastor Ryan's his ability to minister to the needs of the church are going to improve because now he knows that the church is taking care of itself, right? You have a system of congregational care. So it aligns the local church to become healthy and robust and energizes its members to become involved in evangelism, missions, outreach, and so on. It is all but impossible for a sick church to accomplish these purposes. So Carey Nieuwhof said this: the best answer I know of for pastoral care is to teach people to care for each other in groups. I'm convinced that if we change how we do pastoral care, we will reach more people, and in the process, we care for people much better than we do. So the definition, based on 1 Corinthians 12, 25 and 26, so this is kind of the definition. So you're going to initiate this pastoral care ministry. What is care? What is the Care Ministry Network? The Care Ministry Network is an authentic and proven congregational care system that enables God's people to care for one another consistently. So if the care ministry, Pastor Sam, had a mission statement, you can be certain to devise and create your own mission statement, but this is kind of the mission statement of the care ministry. The Care Ministry Network is an authentic and proven congregational care system that enables God's people to care for one another consistently, right? Care ministry is not just caring for people in crisis, but it's caring for people all the time consistently. The ministry of care is not restricted to the credentialed ministers only, right? It's not just the responsibility of the pastors and those with credentials, but it's the responsibility of the entire church to care. So let's just look at the structure. Any healthy structure requires levels of leadership, right? I mean, if you look at any corporate structure, if you look at a football team, right? Any kind of successful structure requires some type of levels of leadership or lines of authority. And also clear avenues of communication. This is essential in order to develop a healthy structure. So we're going to talk about that here this morning. Everyone in the organization has to know to whom they are accountable, for whom they are responsible, and with whom they're serving in a relationship on a peer level. That means there has to be a vertical up and down as well as horizontal peer lines. All organizational communication should follow these avenues. So, and this is an important aspect of the care ministry, is to have some type of organizational structure. So the care ministry network proposes 5 levels to care, 5 levels of care to reach each person in the church family. Each of these levels serves a particular purpose, which makes the entire ministry function as a healthy organism. So kind of how that works would be, and I just created a simple graph, a simple design, and as a matter of fact, you can look and see that on page 20. They have a very similar type of structure. But it's important just to kind of introduce this concept and this idea because as you start these communications, you'll have to begin to operate along these lines. Now, of course, I didn't put it, but Jesus is the head of the church, right? I mean, just to make sure that we always start with Jesus. He is the head of the church. And then you're going to have the pastor, right? So Pastor Ryan is the overseer, oversight. He's the one who's carrying the weight and responsibility for the care ministry. Sorry. Co-pastor. Perfect. Sorry, Leah. Did not mean to not include you on that. Yeah. But absolutely. So that's typically how that is. Man, I just don't even feel right about that anymore. So it's a dry erase board. How about that? There we go. All right. Hey, Pastor Joe, give me thoughts. So then you have your care directors, right? And these are the folks who really kind of help keep the system functional and operational. They deal with a lot of the logistical, administrative aspects of the ministry under the directions of the senior pastors. Now, you also can have, at this level, a lead team that will help to facilitate different aspects of the ministry. You're going to have to send out people's phone numbers. You're going to have to print different things. Every care pastor has a care packet that they get when they become care leaders. Sorry, I keep getting the terminology back and forth. But it's going to have the phone number, address, date of birth, all that kind of stuff of each person that's within their care group, right? And sometimes a lead team is very beneficial in order to help with some of that administrative functions. Then you're going to have your first layer of leadership within the care ministry is your care shepherds. I think that's the terminology. Is that what we're going to use? So these care shepherds, because even your care leaders have to have somebody that's checking on them and taking care of them, right? I'm convinced healthy ministers create healthy ministries. So these care shepherds are accountable directly to the director, and they are ensuring that the care leaders in the church, they're also being taken care of. We don't want to neglect the people who are doing the ministry in the church. We want to take care of them. I think it's in Proverbs. It says to muzzle not the ox while it treads out the grain, right? That we need to make sure that the people that are taking care of our people are taken care of. And then you have the heart and soul of the care ministry, which is your care leaders. And your care leaders communicate and are accountable to your care shepherds, and also who your care shepherds are accountable to the care director, who are accountable to Pastors Ryan and Leah. So what they're going to do is they're going to incorporate and implement the ministry of care, and we'll talk about that, the acronym, and we'll tell you exactly what these care leaders do, and then what these care shepherds do. These care shepherds are just care leaders for the care leaders. And then we're going to describe what they do, and then they're going to report that information back up to their care shepherds. I'll just give you kind of a story of how beautiful this system is. I know it seems like a pyramid scheme, but pyramid schemes apparently work. That's why everybody does them, But we had a gentleman in the church. He was one of our care leaders, him and his wife. And they reached out to one of their families. And, the family says, hey, thank you so much for calling, but we're good. Don't need anybody to check on us. No problem. So a month later, they called back. Hey, just let you know, we're here if you need anything. We're good. We don't need anything. Everything's good. This went on for a year, a full year. The care leader actually got so discouraged by this, they requested to Pastor Darrell, hey, maybe this person doesn't need a care leader. So maybe just give us another person we can call them. And me and Pastor Darrell talked about it. No, just leave them in. Because even though they don't want a care leader, they need one. They don't even know it yet. Well, this lady's husband ended up in the hospital. And, I don't know about you, but I don't just give my cell phone number to anybody and everybody in our church. My phone would ring off the hook. And, of course, it was an emergency situation. The lady's husband went to the hospital. She called the church office and got our machine. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to call my care leader. So she called her care leader. They answered the phone. I need you to pray. My husband's in the hospital. Oh, okay. Here's my chance, They prayed with him. Got in the car, drove to the hospital, met her there. On the way to the hospital, called Pastor Darrell to tell him, hey, listen, so-and-so is in the hospital. We're on our way there to go pray with him. Pastor Darrell, of course, calls me, and we have this convergence of people meeting at the hospital to pray for this very desperate and dire situation, to care for that person, Without this system in place, this lady would have had to go through that situation with her husband by herself, or just a close personal friend, But because we had a system in place, she was able to receive the love and affection from the church that she really needed. So, just as an encouragement, if you don't see the fruit of this immediately, it's okay. Just stay faithful to it. As a matter of fact, I tell people in our church that these care leaders represent me. So the same respect that you would give to me, give to them. If I called a person in our church, and and they're going to answer my call, it's the same thing as one of our care leaders calls. It's just the same thing as me calling. Answer their call. They're called on my behalf. So that's the basic structure. That's the basic system with which the levels of leadership that exist within the care ministry. So the care director leads the care ministry network, and the leadership team assists him or her in the execution of the ministry. Typically, the care director is a servant leader. That is, in most churches, this is not a paid staff position. The care director is accountable directly to the lead pastor and also cares for the leadership team. So how we have this broken down in our church, we have a care director, and that care director is personally calling and checking on all of our shepherds and then all of our leadership team. We have a leadership team of four people. We have a trainer, we have a person who helps us with our training, we have someone who helps with all of our administration, we have someone who just helps with recruiting, yeah. So they're recruiting, they're just kind of calling, they see people who may be a good fit for our care ministry, so she'll call and invite them to some of our meetings and things like that. So, again, we've been doing this for a little while. So the care leadership team functions alongside the care director and assists to lead the entire ministry. The members help to put together seminars, conferences, meetings, and other events. Depending on the size of the church, each member of the care leadership team also provides care to 3 care shepherds. In a smaller church, they also serve as care shepherds until there are capable people to fill these roles. So care shepherds provide leadership and guidance to 3 to 5 care leaders each, depending again on the size of the team that you have. So they're accountable to the care director and also serve as the care leaders of the care leaders. assigned to them. So number 4, care leaders. Again, this is the really the bones of the ministry. The care leaders provide ongoing care to their flock, which is comprised of 5 households. So some churches use deacons to fulfill this role. They follow a 5 points of contact strategy, which comes later in the seminar. The care leaders relate directly to the care shepherds, right? So this is really what we're going to spend the most time talking about, is what do care leaders do? Because this is the model that trickles up through the whole organization. So the flocks, and I think here we're going to call those groups, your household groups, usually consist of 5 households each, and the care ministry leadership team will determine the groups or the flocks and assign those households to the care pastors. So the household may consist of a couple, which is a husband and wife, a mother, father, and children in a home, a single parent, a single person. We have one or two, maybe more than that, 1 or 2 different care groups that we have that are only widows. And we have a couple of widow ladies in our church that they just minister to the needs of the widows in the church. And it's been really, really good. Just a quick little note, we had one of our widow ladies that she had just gotten her medicine mixed up, She was just getting older, and she was diagnosed with early onset dementia. Now, we didn't know any of that. She's just a lady. She comes to church on Sunday and she goes home. She comes to church on Sunday, she goes home. Didn't have a whole lot of interaction with other people in the church. Well, she got assigned to a care pastor, care leader, and so that care leader began just developing and building a relationship with this lady. So over a couple of years, they start to know each other. They become friends. They get connected. Well, one day, the care leader calls this lady and realizes that she just doesn't sound the same. Like something's changed in her voice. They were close enough friends where she could just hear that something was a little off. So the care leader drove to this lady's house, and the lady was in just a really deep, dark place of depression. To the point of, doing self-harm. Well, the care leader loaded the lady up in her car, brought her to the church. She came, sat down with me and Pastor Darrell, and we just determined at that time she needed to get to the hospital. And of course, that's when we found out about the dementia. We found out about the medicine that was messed up. And so now she's doing great. But I'm convinced, had we not had an effective and efficient care strategy in our church, I would be, she would probably not be with us today. Because she was alone. She had nobody. But who she did have was her church. And her church was there to take care of her. So that's the basic system and structure of the care ministry. Up next, we'll restart the video. I'm going to invite Pastor Darrell, and he's going to come up and just talk about some of the essentials, which is, just what does it mean to be a care leader. So, Pastor.